Let's now take a look at how the Nigerian equities market is shaping up at the moment. It appears investors' appetite for equities is waning at the moment, with pockets of light gains being recorded across sectors of the market. Meanwhile, Transcorp continues to dominate the volume chart, churning out over 54.3 million units in midday ahead of ETI and WAPIC Insurance. Is the market heading for another negative close today? Abiodun Kerekpe, analyst, Investment One Financial Services, joins me now in the studio for a market update. Thank you so much, Abiodun, for taking the time out to join us. Whereas at the last time I picked at the data, the numbers didn't look too good, but it looks like there could be a turnaround at the moment. It will just help us let's look into the general market performance. We're looking at Transcorp still dominating the volume chart. Obviously, investors are still sustaining investors' interest. But for you, what's been the most, just 2 days of trade, what's been the most interesting from the session?
So far in the last two sessions, the most interesting has actually been events around Forte oil and corn oil. And even as we speak, the market is up marginally by about 58 basis points. And that's been driven by Forte oil majorly, and then corn oil, and also Transcorp.
No, because I'm sorry to butt in. When the opening bell rang, it didn't look like we saw a bit of a dull. So things have picked up. Okay.
That follows from if you look at the over the last 4 sessions, taken from Thursday, Friday previous week, you saw Thursday market closed flat, and by Friday it was down marginally. And Monday it was almost flat, up by just about 7 basis points. So that's just a clear reflection that there's been some massive price movement over the last 8, almost 12 sessions now. So you expect investors, or rather market participants, to majorly want to take some of those profits, and that's in a way shaping the market currently. So you see a market where there's sentiment that is quite positive, quite strong, because the activity level is still quite high. On average, we're still doing above 3 billion worth of shares traded on a daily basis. So you could say clearly that sentiment is positive, but for the fact that there have been some price gains, so there's a temptation that those who majorly play the market want to cash in on those gains.
The short-term players. Do we have more of those class of investors in the market at the moment?
We always have them in the market, always have them. Even relatively, we have more of them as we speak. Because those who will be looking at positioning for Q4 numbers will be looking at very, attractive entry points. So some of them might want to be very cautious at this price level. The overall basket of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is currently trading at about 13.12 times price to, PE earnings ratio, which is relatively higher compared to the MSCI emerging market average of about 12.3 times. Okay. So that's driven by the price gains we've seen so far, and that calls for a bit of caution.
On part of investors. Now, talking about good entry points, for you, what stocks come to mind as good entry points? Stocks that have appreciated in price value or have taken a beating, but still have very good, fundamentals.
Really, on average, the banking sector is still quite cheap, on average of about 7 times PE. But the fact is that recently there seems to be a rotation away from banking sector. Interest seems to be shifting more towards the consumer space, majorly because of the event around the banking industry, as we speak. But that's just an event that I believe into 2014, the banking system or the banking sector would actually identify new markets that would drive earnings, as we heard in the news. First Bank taking up acquisition in some foreign bank in other African countries. So that's a reflection that those banks are in search of growth opportunities outside.
So you think that's very encouraging for investors?
Exactly. I think it is very encouraging. So stock specifically in the banking sector, I still find names like UBA, I still find names like Access, despite the mixed Q3 numbers that we saw. Interesting. In the consumer space, even though Nestle still looks a bit pricey, but I believe
at over 1,000, it's actually quite pricey at the moment. But is this you consider it a good buy?
I still consider it a good buy because I really don't see it heading back down to below 1,000 naira, backing out any unexpected negative event in the system. If that doesn't happen, I see Nestle.
Okay, so going forward, what do you see the trend for this week being? We're looking at profit taking.
For this week, I see very mixed events. A bit of temptation to take profit, and then still sentiments are still positive. So, on the average, I still expect a marginal positive close by the end of this
No, because
week.
sometimes one looks at the market, it doesn't appear that there's a clear direction.
Yeah.
So is that because of the pockets of profit taking that we see?
Exactly, in a way, it is. It is the profit taking, and majorly it is the profit taking. No other short-term factor in the marketplace that could warrant a slowdown, a significant slowdown from current.
Now, I have been seeing some insurance companies, their quarterly results, some of them full year, just trickling in one by one after the other into the market. It doesn't appear that the market is paying any attention to that. We know what the issues are in this sector. But for you, what is your outlook for this sector? It's always been bearish, and I keep thinking, is that cycle going to continue?
I think for the sector on average, it's bearish, but on a stock-specific basis, there are particular names in the industry that still, command investor interest. Names like Mansard, names like Custody Insurance, IECO, you still see a lot of activity around those names. Their numbers are still quite strong for those three names. I'm quite not too familiar, but still quite familiar with those names. See their numbers in terms of dividend payouts. You still expect some decent dividends, decent earnings growth from those names. So majorly, I still see those three names will still continue to, support the sector really. But for the other names, the Mutual Benefit, the Legacy Alliance, I'm not too very comfortable with those names really. I'm not too comfortable.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Abiodun. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on market trade at the moment. I have been talking to Abiodun Kerekpe, analyst, Investment One Financial Services, looking at trading at the Nigerian local bourse.